What's up, Wichita? This is Janice Thacker with the African American Council of Elders. Our special guest today is Frances Jackson. She's past presiding elder. Could you please tell us about your program?
Good morning. I would love to do that. It's really a very inclusive organization in that it's rooted in our African American heritage and traditions. And we hope that it offers sort of an accumulation of wisdom, guidance, experience, and spiritual insight so that we can provide leadership and so that we can develop and improve and certainly enrich our communities.
Well, that's quite an undertaking. What inspired your organization to get started?
Well, as we looked around the community and we were really, at the very point that we began, we were really concerned about alcohol, tobacco, other drugs, and we had formed different types of organizations to really try to circumvent the activities that were involved there. So we knew that we need to figure out a way to give advice, to offer guidance, and to serve in a way that would better what was going on with each of the groups that were involved. And so we said, we'll be the sounding board. We'll look at these community issues. We'll offer what we call reasoned solutions to the problems that are affecting our community. And we believe that education is the intergenerational transmission of the wisdom of the ancestors. And so we began to look for ways to share that truth and to speak truth for justice. We are a circle or a council of men and women, and we find that with this council, we have lots of opportunities to look at what are the 7 principles of Kwanzaa, because they take advantage of the collective of all the things that offer the well-being of African Americans and people of African lineage here in Wichita, Sedgwick County. We know we serve as sort of a spiritual and ethical group too, because when you look at our historical legacy, we find that people move ahead when there is a moral expectation and a real progressive agenda around what is it that we can provide that will offer some betterment to the community. So as this sounding board, we came up with some ideas that we thought might be helpful to the community. And the first one being, because we begin to see that a lot of people were suffering because of lack of economic opportunity, and they didn't have any reasonable way of building assets in the community. So we made that one of a part of our organization. We also noticed that the health and safety of our groups, different groups in the community were suffering. So we looked at that, and we have a number of people who know how to solve these, or not necessarily solve, but have discussions around and make available for more healthy and safer ways to be in a community. We were so concerned about school and educational opportunities because we knew a lot of economic opportunities in asset building has to do with what sort of education can you get. And we're not just talking about finishing high school and going to college. We're talking about learning something that gives you the desire to begin to develop those things around whatever that desire is that will give you the economic opportunity in asset building that you need. But you do need to have the opportunity to learn those things. And not least, but certainly important, is the criminalization and the social justice issues. If every time we turn around and we see children experimenting with life and we want to throw them in jail, then we're at the point then, where do we stop this? And where do we bring children and their families in to say, there are other ways that we can experience this life in this community, in this village. And finally, we're at a point that we know not many of these things are going to change unless we have civic engagement and we advocate. So it's all about policy and programs that get us to this policy. And if we can't figure out ways to get people elected to office, if we can't figure out ways for families to become engaged, if someone says to you, oh, I don't vote, and you need to say to them, you just told me you already have, because you're not voting is a vote. So this civic engagement and advocacy has to be present. And we know that the elders have this valuable information, and it sort of sets the stage then for us to collaborate with the community and work together. so that we can envision the progress that is needed and the success that we need to hold up for our children, our families, our village. And so we need to channel all of these resources in a way that we're not necessarily reinventing the wheel, but we're getting people together in a way that helps us to respond beyond our personal concern.
Wow, so it sounds like that's passion,
Mhm.
experience, organization. And so how can people kind of get involved with some of your activities that you provide for the community?
We meet the first Saturday of the month, and usually it's at 11, but sometimes we start at 1, depending on where we're meeting. And we set that meeting, and it'll always be on that day, because one of the things we notice, there's so many things going on, that if you continuously change the meeting, you lose everyone. So it'll always be the first Saturday. And actually it happens after the breakfast that Lavonta has for the city. And so her meeting is usually from 9 to 11, and ours is then from 11 to 3. And people can come, they can call, they can go online and find what's going to be going on. And presently we're real concerned about who's going to take the place of the congressional person that we have that's probably going to be leaving and going into the president's inner circle. And so that would be another voting experience that people need to get ready for, get registered, and literally go and vote. And don't go around telling people you don't vote, because that's not going to help anyone, especially you. And then the other thing is that we give workshops and have what we call roundtables, where we invite people into the community who want to share about what they're doing. So we're not trying to create another organization to deal with a particular problem, but we're trying to utilize what's in the village, what's already there. We're trying to encourage people to get up and stand up and start that business, because we know it's those businesses that allow us to employ our people. And when you have economic concerns, it almost always means that we haven't figured out ways to allow people to get to a point where they want to be responsible for their own asset building.
Well, you know, with the asset building, it sounds like you're creating a legacy for young people to get involved so that that next generation has something to offer. Did I miss anything?
No, I think you're right. I think everyone should be concerned about their legacy, whether it's what we leave in the community or for our children or whatever part of the generation that we belong to. How are we going to leave it so that it's strong, so that the foundation is there for a movement upward, so that people feel loved, so they feel as though this is the village, this is the community that cares about me, loves me, stays engaged. Even when I need a little spanking, they will still say, I love you, because they know that in the end, the legacy is what makes our community strong.
Wow, is there anything I should have asked you that I didn't ask you?
Well, I don't know, but one of the things I'd like to continue to get people to understand, when you're talking about process and procedure and how it is that local governments and state governments and regional and national governments and international governments work, we have to be involved. If it's only that we understand who's running and why they are running. Because if you don't understand that, that trips us up. Because then somebody thinks, just because they said, we're going to make America great again, means that that's the person I'm going to vote for. No, you have to understand where that soundbite came from and why it's being used. And one of the ways to understand it is have a conversation with your elder. What have you gone through? And when you look at Kansas, Kansas is an incredible place. It's a place where people came for freedom. It's a place where there were 90-some Native American tribes where in gradual sort of a sequence, they sort of left us. And when we look at legacy, we're also looking at people who came from other parts of the United States and the world to find a place to experience that freedom. And if now we don't think that freedom is important, we need to look again, because our schools are being degraded, and people who have means go on and start a private school. But people who understand that if you have a mix of people, you learn so much. If everybody's not like you, it means you're gonna learn new ways to eat food, you're gonna learn new ways to dress, you're gonna learn new ways to express your art and to perform, and it's because you have sort of, not necessarily a melting pot, I think I like to use a tossed salad, where you can still be your own entity, but you experience the ability to be with a group of people. So this public education system needs to be become a beloved part of our community, because without the public education system, you have systems where people only teach what it is that they want you to know about how they want to use you.
Wow, so thank you so much. We definitely want to have you back on again on the What's Up Wichita. And so we're going to be signing off now. JT Cascade Media Group at Outlook.com. Thanks again. This is What's Up Wichita.
Thank you so much.